Coming up on AZ Sportsbox Weekly. With Sun Devil football on fire with their third straight win, we will break down if ASU has the potential to be a top 25 team. Plus, will the D-backs still have a chance to make the playoffs? We will take a look to see if there is any chance left of postseason baseball returning to the desert.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another installment of AZ Sportsbox Weekly. I'm Evan Oshowitz, and she is Sydney Fite.
Let's start right into our highlights for this week. The Sun Devils traveled to East Lansing, Michigan on Saturday to play the number 18 Michigan State Spartans. Both teams came into this game undefeated, and let's go straight to the second quarter, where the Sun Devils marched right down the field to give Zendejas a 41-yard field goal attempt with 3 minutes and 20 seconds left to go in the half. The ball is snapped and it goes straight through the middle. The Sun Devils were the first to score in this game today, 3-0 going into halftime. 8 minutes left in the game and Michigan State is in the red zone for the second time today. He handed off to Collins and he finds the break in the defense, running it in for a touchdown. The Spartans score with just 8 minutes left in the game, and the extra point is good. Michigan State leads 7-3. Less than a minute in the game and Arizona State is in the red zone. Daniels hands it off to Benjamin. After a bit of confusion and reviewing of the play, it is decided he broke the plane before he was down, and the ruling on the field is a touchdown. This should be the only touchdown the Sun Devils score in this game. 10-7 with less than a minute left in the game. Michigan State immediately pushes down the field and sets up their kicker Coughlin for a 42-yard field goal, and the kick is good. It looks like we're going into overtime, but no. There's a flag on the play. Michigan State had 12 men on the field. It's a 5-yard penalty, and we'll have to replay that kick. Coughlin is now ready to make this 47-yard attempt with 11 players on the field, and the refs are going to count one more time just to check. The ball is snapped, and Coughlin hooks it to the left, and Arizona State has beat the Spartans for the second year in a row. The Sun Devils leave East Lansing with the win, 7-10. The victory was enough to reach the 24th ranking, and ASU kicker Christian Zendejas received a scholarship from Herm Edwards on Tuesday following his performance.
We had a heck of a game in Baltimore on Sunday. It was a battle of two former Heisman Trophy winning quarterbacks as Kyler Murray's Cardinals visited Lamar Jackson's Ravens at M&T Bank Stadium. Some exciting quarterback play in this one. Second quarter, Ravens leading 7-3, a 3rd and 11 in Cardinals territory. Jackson hooks up with Mark Andrews here. Nice little play over the middle. Andrews caught a touchdown earlier in the game. That would set up a Justin Tucker field goal. Very busy day for both kickers. Teams trading field goals left and right. Kyler Murray, though, not to be outdone. Off his back foot right here, finds Keyshawn Johnson in traffic. What a play by him. He's fired up. The entire Cardinals sideline is fired up. They would have to settle for a field goal here, though. Zane Gonzalez hits his second of the day, the ASU product. 1st and goal, play action here for the Ravens. Second touchdown pass of the day for Jackson finds Hayden Hurst. Nearly dropped that one, but he's able to secure it. Baltimore leads by 2 scores. Jackson had 2 passing touchdowns on the day. That was the second of the 2. Murray, though, back with the ball. He's going to find Max Williams, the former Raven right here. And that sets up another Cardinals field goal. Zane Gonzalez perfect on the day, 3 for 3. Still a 1-score game. Very interesting. Jackson back under center for the Ravens. Hooks up over the middle with Andrews again for another first down. And Jackson used his legs a fair amount as well. This is a 3rd and 20 right here. And he's going to get very close to the line to gain. Fumbles the ball, but he was down. 4th quarter. Another Ravens field goal here. Justin Tucker, one of the best in the game, showing his stuff right there. And the Cardinals finally in the red zone. David Johnson takes it in for a 1-yard touchdown, the first of the day for Arizona. And all of a sudden, we have a very close game. Cardinals decide to go for 2 here. Cliff Kingsbury, a bold strategy, but they get it. Murray under pressure, finds his receiver in the back of the end zone. It's Johnson again. What a big day for him. And just like that, only a field goal separates the two teams. But Justin Tucker, not to be outdone, hits a 52-yarder. midway through the fourth quarter to put the Ravens up 6, and Jackson ices it right here with this long completion to Marquise Brown. Ravens win 23-17. They are now 2-0, leading the AFC North. And here we get a look at the game stats. Murray, impressive, 349 passing yards. Second week in a row, he's got 300, and Jackson 272 yards and 2 touchdowns of his own. And Mark Andrews, the tight end, with a big show, 8 receptions, 112 yards, and a touchdown.
It has been a great week of football, and after 3 weeks of college football, the top 25 rankings are starting to reflect the grueling schedules of some of these teams. The top 10 is filled with populated teams like the usual suspects: Georgia, Oklahoma, Ohio State, with last year's finalists Clemson and Alabama ranked at 2 and 1 and 2 respectively. But some of these bigger jumps this week were the teams that are rounding out the top 25. Kansas State moved on to number 24 after they went on the road and pulled out the win against Mississippi State 31-24. Now the Wildcats are off to a good start but have not seen the hardest teams on their schedule yet. On the 28th, they will play Oklahoma State and still have teams like Oklahoma and Texas ahead of them later this season. Arizona State traveled to East Lansing to play the number 18 Michigan State and pulled out a narrow win 10-7. Freshman quarterback Jaden Daniels was able to create some offense, and that, combined with the 12-man penalty in the last second of the game, led to a missed field goal to lose the game. Arizona State has moved up to the number 24 spot. Herm Edwards said he does not want the fact that 28 freshmen played in this game to be overlooked. The young quarterback and the Sun Devils are headed to next week 3-0. Their future competition does not let up, with Washington State, Utah, and Oregon in the upcoming weeks.
College basketball season is right around the corner, and the ASU Sun Devils are seeking their 3rd consecutive tournament bid. To preview the upcoming season, I am joined here by college basketball expert Amir Mohammed.
Thank you, Evan. Here are some important games to watch for as the ASU men's basketball season approaches. The Sun Devils will begin the season on the road as they take on the Colorado Buffaloes inside Colorado University Event Center on Friday, November 8th at 8:30 Mountain Standard Time. The Sun Devils split the season series last year against the Buffs. In the two teams' last meeting, Colorado squeaked by ASU as their star guard-wing duo, McKinley Wright and Tyler Bay, combined for a whopping 46 points and 23 rebounds. They're both returning this game, so we'll see if the Sun Devils learn their lesson. This game will serve as an early test for Bobby Hurley's defensive scheme and will serve as a sneak peek into conference play. Conference play for ASU will officially begin January 4th in Tucson, Arizona. The Territorial Cup should set the tempo for the remainder of the season as the Devils swept their bitter rivals in the season series last year. Guard Remy Martin averaged 29 points and 8 assists in the 2 wins against the Wildcats last season and should be a key player for the Pac-12 opening matchup. Last game to watch for is the first matchup against the Oregon Ducks. The team will travel to Eugene, Oregon on January 11th for a late-night showdown with the Ducks. The Sun Devils are hunting for revenge as they were blown out in Eugene last season, 79-51. The Ducks soon after played against ASU again in the second round of the Pac-12 tournament, where they beat ASU in a 79-75 overtime thriller. Expect returning players Romello White, Rob Edwards, and Remy Martin to prove they can handle Oregon away from home. This game should serve as a potential revenge match and measuring tool to see how much ASU can truly compete in the Pac-12.
Good stuff, Amir. So some of the returning players they have, the Rob Edwards, the Remy Martins, what are they going to do to replace guys like Zylan Cheatham and Luguentz Dort, who have left for the NBA or the G League? Those guys were key contributors on the team last year. It's going to be tough to replace them. How do you think they're going to do it?
Well, I think what's going to have to happen is that players like Romello White are going to have to step up. Last season, he converted on 60% of his attempts for 11 points per game. I think that he's going to have to be a more volume shooter. I think players like Remy Martin are going to have to be more consistent in their offensive play. And also, you just have to look at the deep bench that ASU does have. And if they can convert on chances inside, as well as having a better three-point game than they had last year. Last year, they didn't shoot the ball particularly well. If they can shoot the three ball well, they can compete in the Pac-12.
Thanks, guys. We're going to move from ASU basketball in Tempe to UFC Fight Night in Vancouver. Arizona native Justin Gaethje just had his 3rd straight first-round knockout last weekend. Gaethje scored a clean right hand at 4:18 in the first round, and Donald Cowboy Cerrone fell hard. It almost looked as if he would recover, but Gaethje finished the fight and scored a couple more hits to complete his third knockout. Gaethje said in a post-game interview, "I have something to prove to myself every time I step here, and I will never let myself down by living to this." Gaethje is in the updated lightweight rankings, is sitting at number 4 behind Tony Ferguson, Dustin Poirier, and Conor McGregor. McGregor's name has been brought up in the conversation for Gaethje's next fight, and UFC analysts agree that in ranking and matchup, this fight will make the most sense. But nothing has been materialized yet. Gaethje said, "If he wants to come back, then I am the perfect guy to bring him back." We're going to go to our second episode of The Breakdown with Henry and Amir.
Thank you very much, guys. I am here with Amir Muhammad. It's a new face, but the same great content here on The Breakdown, Episode 2.
Well, yeah, man, I'm really glad you guys could have me here, and I'm so excited to get into these AFC South teams. Today, guys, we're going to break down the Titans, Colts, Jags, and the Texans. We're going to try to predict how these guys can do in this 2019 NFL season.
Yeah, so without further ado, let's get started on the Colts.
The huge story for the Colts coming into this season was the shocking retirement of franchise quarterback Andrew Luck. Considering how the team went from 3 straight 11-5 winning seasons to going 6-10 without Luck, we all know how challenging it will be to replace him. That being said, let's not forget the many assets this team has on both sides of the ball. Offensively, this team still has arguably the best line in football, which was able to open up lanes for running back Marlon Mack that even Trent Richardson could run through. Along with allowing enough time to cook a 5-course meal in the pocket, this offensive line, led by Quentin Nelson, is not one to be trifled with. Add in playmakers T.Y. Hilton and red zone threat Eric Ebron, replacement quarterback Jacoby Brissett should be a decent enough game manager. On the defensive side of the ball, the Colts have made monumental strides in the last few years, with players such as Malik Hooker, Darius Leonard, and edge rusher Jabal Sheard. The Colts should be able to hold their own on the defensive side of the ball. Another troubling issue for the Colts this year has been the special teams unit, more specifically, future Hall of Famer kicker Adam Vinatieri. He's been absolutely dreadful for the first 2 games and is contemplating retirement. He's been converting only 40% of extra points and a measly 33% on field goals. Even with all the promise and upside, the quarterback is the most important position in football, so I have the Colts finishing 7-9 and searching for a quarterback going into the next year.
The Tennessee Titans and second-year head coach Mike Vrabel will be looking to silence the doubters in the 2019 season. A huge question and concern for fans and many in Titans facility is this: is Marcus Mariota the future of the franchise? Over the last 2 years, Mariota has looked far from the Heisman-winning quarterback and number 2 overall pick we saw at Oregon. He's looked like a bust. Last year, Mariota threw 11 touchdowns to 8 interceptions and struggled to stay on the field consistently, another theme for his NFL tenure. You all know the saying that the best ability is availability, and even when healthy, Mariota doesn't seem like the franchise messiah Tennessee drafted him to be. The team does have several bright spots, though, those being a stout offensive front, a deep but elderly front seven, and the dynamic 1-2 punch of bruiser Derrick Henry and scatback Deion Lewis. However, with young pass catchers and a slightly above-average defense, the Titans have a very limited ceiling. I've got them finishing also at 7-9.
The Jacksonville Jaguars are looking to return to the form of their 2017 campaign, which saw them make a trip to the AFC Championship game. The recipe for that incredible season? A borderline historic defense and a great running game. Subpar quarterback play has always been the downfall of this team, and this offseason, they were determined to fix it. The club signed former Super Bowl MVP Nick Foles to a 4-year, $88 million contract. The quarterback, known for his big playmaking ability in clutch situations, was expected to be this franchise's saint. Unfortunately for the Jags, St. Nick suffered a broken collarbone during the team's first game against Kansas City Chiefs. The team will move on with 6th-round rookie quarterback Gardner Minshew, who has shown flashes in relief of Foles. To make matters worse, elite cornerback Jalen Ramsey has recently requested a ticket out of Jacksonville. In return, the Florida team is looking to fetch at least a first-rounder. Running back Leonard Fournette is also looking to return to his 2017 ways. In 2018, we saw him gain an abysmal 439 yards on a 3.3 yards per carry. This April, the team selected human wrecking ball and projected top 3 overall pick from Kentucky, Josh Allen, in order to keep Saxonville relevant. The question is, how relevant can the unit stay without their star cover corner and their $88 million man? I've got them going 5-11 and finishing last in the division.
The Houston Texans enter the season with loads of optimism. The team that analysts and many fans have predicted to get over the metaphorical hump for the last 5 years has done little to nothing to capitalize on their influx of star talent. Many Texans truthers will attest this to poor management from former GM Rick Smith and then eventually Brian Gaine. The Texans fired Gaine this offseason as he failed to build protection for star quarterback Deshaun Watson. The Texans choose one of the most unorthodox ways of replacing their GM. They didn't. The Texans also traded star edge player and former #1 overall pick Jadeveon Clowney to the Seattle Seahawks. Clowney demanded a trade after failing to restructure his contract with management. For the vast amount of potential Clowney has, he must have at least fetched a first rounder, right? Wrong. They ended up with a 2020 third-round pick and some rotational linebacker players in return. In terms of roster talent, the Texans still have one of the most top-heavy teams in the league, with stars such as DeAndre Hopkins, Deshaun Watson, J.J. Watt, and newly acquired Laramie Tunsil. The Texans will be propelled to the forefront of this division. Hopkins and Watson have easily become one of the best quarterback wideout tandems in the league. Hopkins went for 1,500 yards on 115 receptions with no drops. That's right, no drops. Hopkins isn't just looking to match his 2018 performance, he's looking to shatter it. An inconsistent and unproven secondary combined with abysmal offensive line play could be the downfall for the Texans in the playoffs.
All right, thank you very much, Amir. You heard it here first. The Houston Texans will win the AFC South. Unfortunately, that's all the time we have on the Breakdown Episode 2. Now back to you guys at the desk.
When you get knocked down, you get back up, and the Diamondbacks are proving this after their game this week. On their 12-6 loss on Tuesday, they have not given up as they bounce back Wednesday and beat the Marlins 5-4. They're trying to keep their small playoff chances alive with 9 games left in the regular season, and we'll go to our expert Connor to talk about what's left in the Arizona Diamondbacks season.
Thanks, Cindy. With 2 weeks left in the MLB season, the NL wildcard race is heating up. The Arizona Diamondbacks, currently sitting at 78 and 75, are 5 games behind in the wildcard race. With 3 series remaining, the Diamondbacks will face a very competitive St. Louis Cardinals team and the underperforming San Diego Padres team. Around the rest of the NL, the St. Louis Cardinals, Chicago Cubs, and Milwaukee Brewers are in a cutthroat race for the NL Central pennant. The Cubs, without key weapons Javier Baez and Anthony Rizzo, could be stopped in their tracks with their upcoming series versus St. Louis Cardinals. But according to some breaking news, both those players are back in action tonight, which may affect the Cubs' chances at making the playoffs. But for the Milwaukee Brewers, we are without Christian Yelich for the remaining of the season. But getting the bigger picture, the Los Angeles Dodgers are the only NL team to clinch the division. Atlanta also is primed to clinch the division, but clinch the wild card spot tonight. So all in all, it should be a pretty interesting conclusion to the MLB season, Evan.
Thanks, Connor. Now, you mentioned the Diamondbacks in a very precarious position right now, only 3 games over 500 with just 3 series remaining. Do you think they have any chance at getting one of those 2 remaining wildcard spots?
Evan, I think it's going to be very rough. According to some news, Ketel Marte is expected not to come back in the rest of the season. So Arizona Diamondbacks are unfortunately going to be without him, so I think it's going to be very tough for the team.
Yeah, certainly a tough blow there, the National League hits leader. But let's talk about some players who are returning from injury right now. Anthony Rizzo, Javier Baez, Craig Kimbrell, all coming back for the Chicago Cubs. Baez obviously in a limited role, but what are those guys going to mean for them heading down the stretch? And do you think that will lead them to one of the wild card spots?
Evan, I definitely think it's going to be very interesting having those key pieces back in action. I think the Chicago Cubs will surely be one to watch come in the last couple of games in the series, Evan.
Thanks, Connor. And now for the latest predictions in college football and the NFL, here's Nicole Pinter with what to watch for.
Thanks, Evan. We start things off with college football as the number 11 ranked Michigan Wolverines travel to Camp Randall to take on the number 13 Wisconsin Badgers. Both teams are coming off their bye week, having won the week before. However, the Badgers have shut out both their opponents so far, while the Wolverines struggled in the first half against Middle Tennessee State and just barely escaped Army in double overtime. Wisconsin is a 3.5-point favorite as Jim Harbaugh goes into what is seen by many as a must-win game for the Wolverines. That game can be seen at 1 p.m. on Fox. Next, the now-ranked number 24 Sun Devils return home after their 10-7 upset victory in East Lansing over number 18 Michigan State to begin Pac-12 play against the Colorado Buffaloes. The Buffaloes are coming off a 30-23 loss at home against Air Force. The defense has been stout for the Sun Devils as they have allowed only 21 points over the past 3 weeks. However, ASU has a history of coming off big upsets only to lose to an inferior opponent. Take last year when the Sun Devils knocked off number 15 Michigan State at home and then fell at San Diego State. This game is huge for the Sun Devils as they look to rewrite history and pave the way for the Pac-12 title Saturday night at 7 on the Pac-12 network. Finally, the Lamar Jackson-led Baltimore Ravens travel to Kansas City to take on Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs Sunday, 10 a.m. Mountain Time on CBS. The story of this game is the quarterbacks. Lamar Jackson has been electric the past 2 weeks, throwing for nearly 600 yards on 41 of 57 passing and 7 touchdowns, as well as rushing for 120 yards. Now, his past 2 opponents, on the other hand, have not been as electric. Jackson has a chance to prove that he can keep up with the man on the other side. That man being none other than Patrick Mahomes, who has picked up exactly where he left off from his MVP season last year. Mahomes has thrown for 821 yards on 55 of 77 passing and 7 touchdowns. Only one team will remain undefeated following this coveted Week 3 matchup. Now back to Evan for the latest on the Phoenix Rising.
Phoenix Rising FC won their 20th straight regular season game on Saturday under controversial circumstances. The game was abandoned in the 84th minute when an opposing player was hit by an object thrown from the stands. With that win, Phoenix inched ever closer to the number 1 seed in the USL playoffs. Their win streak dates back to May 19th when they lost to New Mexico United on penalties. Midfielder Solomon Asante has led the way offensively with 22 goals and 15 assists, both good for tops in the league. Goalie Zach Lubin, meanwhile, leads the league in shutouts with 13 and has allowed 3 or more goals on just 3 occasions this season. Rising has a chance to reach the USL Championship for the 2nd straight year, having lost a 1-0 heartbreaker to Louisville City last November 18th. The club will host Fresno this Saturday in an attempt to extend their already unprecedented win streak. From the impressive to the flat-out ridiculous, here are the top plays of the week. We'll start with the game between the Kansas City Chiefs and the Oakland Raiders. Patrick Mahomes, the reigning MVP, showcasing a little bit of his talent right here, uncorks this throw to DeMarcus Robinson, goes up and gets it. What a play there. Mahomes went off in this quarter, over 300 passing yards. Kansas City takes care of the Raiders. Number 2, Devils versus Rangers preseason action. Mikhail Maltsev steals this pass and dekes out Alexander Georgiev from his knees. Insane play from the young prospect for New Jersey. Let's take another look at it. Just steals this inadvertent backhand pass from Crawley, and look at that move from Maltsev. They are really teaching these players some skill over there in Russia, and he is ready to take the league by storm. Look at that. How did he have the presence of mind to do that? He's fired up, the Devils are fired up, and here's our top play of the week. Browns-Jets, Monday Night Football, Baker Mayfield to Odell Beckham Jr., who is uncanny at doing this type of thing. Another one-handed catch for OBJ over the defensive back. Let's take another look at this. Just an absolutely amazing grab right there. That'll do it for this week's episode of AZ Sports Box. For Sydney Fite, I'm Evan Osherwitz. Until next time, have a good night.